Today we're going to be talking about, are solar panels really a benefit when you're buying a house, when you're thinking of selling your house? So I'm a mortgage lender licensed in 48 states. My business actually started out in California, which I would argue probably is one of the solar panel capitals of the United States. So I have been dealing with financing homes that have solar panels for a very long time. Today I'm going to be going over with you a couple things that I always bring up to my clients. And I bring these up front because what I don't want is I don't want you to find a house, fall in love, get all the way to the end and go, what? Okay, so number one, this is like, I'm gonna do this differently. If I was buying a house and it had solar panels, what I would look for. The first thing I would look for is I would look for evidence of leaks under the solar panels. Yeah, and here's why. So there's a bunch of solar panels where they'll have a warranty on the actual panels for like 15 years, but for the roof underneath the solar panels, only like 10. Right? And beyond that, sometimes what you'll see is that when solar panels are installed, the roof is damaged and can lead to leakage. So the first thing I'm always going to look for is I'm going to be going through the pictures of the house like a private investigator. And some of you have probably been on the phone with me when I've done this with you. I'm going to be looking at the ceiling under the solar panels. And when I go into the house, I'm going to be looking for that as well. It's kind of shocking how often I'll be like, hey, look there, you know, and it's a dark spot. You can see bulging or rippling, and you'll see there's a solar panel right above it. What I saw a lot of in California is that solar panels started going up, but there weren't really companies that specialized in installing them or didn't necessarily put in the level of care that you would want, okay? So number one, you're gonna wanna look for, have those solar panels already damaged the roof? The next thing you're going to want to look at is, okay, is this a lease or are these owned or am I going to have to buy them? So some solar panels are leased, and if you buy the house, you're assuming that lease. And what that means is that A, you have to qualify for it based on their terms. It's not normal, but I did have a client once, we could do the loan, solar panel company wouldn't approve them. Wouldn't approve them. They couldn't buy the house over it. Crazy, right? And that's something to think about if you're putting solar panels on your house and you're going to be leasing them is, hey, like the next buyer, are they going to want to take on this burden? Because a lot of these leases may be 15, 20 years. So very important. Some of them will have a buyout clause, right? But it's like, would I want to have something where if I was selling a house, I'm saying to the buyer, hey, by the way, you're going to have to pay XYZ per month at a minimum, and you need to agree to it, right? You're adding another layer to selling your home. So something to really think about. And as a buyer, you want to know, what are the terms of this lease? You know, if it's something where it's like, let's say that the panels have a 10-year warranty, but the lease is for longer than that, you know, or what the buyout is, like you really want to look at all the terms and conditions, because the other thing that I'll see with solar panels is who is servicing these, right? What company is coming out and servicing? There's always companies that want to sell them to you. There's always contractors willing to put them on, but who is servicing and maintaining them? And what does that look like? If a panel goes out, how does that get replaced? How much does it cost? And who's going to do it? These are the questions that nobody asks. And that's why sometimes I'll hear, yeah, well, you know, the solar's never really worked, but okay, well, it's probably never worked. Was it ever even installed right? You know, there's so many questions. Now, the other thing is there's certain types of solar loans that people take out that have to be paid off before they sell the house. And what that means is that as a lender, I can't do a loan on the property. You know, the seller thinks, oh, well, the loan will just transfer with the house. But as a lender, we can't do a loan because the loan would transfer in front of us, which we're not going to do. And that's all lenders. So if I was thinking about buying solar as someone potentially going to sell their house, I would want to know, okay, if someone wants to buy my house, am I going to have to pay all this off, right? Because it can be a lot. It could be $60,000, $70,000. It could eat your whole profit margin. Or can the debt be transferred? How would it be transferred? Talk to a lender. You know, that's the thing is that every single solar salesperson is going to be like, you don't need to worry about it. Don't worry about it. But back in the day in California, some of these were tied to the taxes where you couldn't just do it that way. They would have to be paid off at close. And in a hot market, would a buyer potentially buy the house and pay that off in order to do a mortgage? Yes, but did I see a lot of that? No, buyers are not usually excited about the concept of, hey, I'm gonna pay $700,000 for a house. I've got to put down a down payment. I'm paying my closing costs. Now you have potential real estate agent commission, and you have to pay off these solar panels that maybe you never cared about. It can be a real detractor. So it's something you really want to consider, you know, A, if you're going to be selling a house with solar, but B, if you're going to be buying it, right? Are they going to be trying to shake $20, $30, $40, $60,000 out of you? Are you going to be in a lease till the dawn of time, you know, or has the seller already paid off the solar? Now, if I was buying a house and it had solar, personally, this is probably the only way I would do it, right? Is if the solar was already paid for. The leases I don't love because I'm still concerned about the maintenance and damage to the roof. If they're already paid off, I at least know, okay, if I'm not into this, I can get rid of them. If they're not working, I can get rid of them. Over here, you've got these two other caveats where it's not gonna be as easy to get rid of, okay? A lot of times people go, well, I only wanna look at houses that have solar on them. And what I would say with that is do a lot of research. You know, do a lot of research. There's been such advancements in panels over the last few years. You know, you've got stuff like the Tesla roof, and there's mixed reviews pretty much on all of it. So you want to make sure, because people go, oh, well, if it's solar, I don't have to pay for energy. And that's not necessarily true. Like, how big is the backup battery? You know, there's a lot of different components to it that will determine how useful solar is for you. Now, there are some new laws where, like with new builds, they have to have a solar capability in certain states as well. Something like that, if it's a requirement, you're not gonna have much say. But with pre-existing houses, if solar is something you really want and you're only looking at houses with solar, make sure you're researching what type of solar you want. There are vast differences. I cannot stress it enough. And then once again, you need to see how it was installed. Is it accurately working? Like, I would want to see energy bills. Like, how much is this person saving? Are they getting money back because they're creating so much energy for the grid? How is this all working? So look, the key is this. Buying a house that has solar panels, it's not cut and dry. There's a lot of different ways that it's done, and that can financially impact you. Number two, the way that it was installed, you know, the warranties left on it, who's gonna service it, what's the maintenance, all of that is incredibly important considerations. And number three, just assuming that since it has solar, you're gonna get these huge discounts, you gotta look at how effective the system actually is. And if you're someone who owns a home and you think that adding solar is gonna increase your value, here's the thing. I had a client not too long ago, and they put this really expensive Tesla roof on their house, and they were going to refi, and they're like, oh, but I put the Tesla roof on, so it's gonna be worth, you know, at least that plus more. It wasn't, and the reason it wasn't is because not everybody values solar. There's a lot of people that do not care if the property has solar or not. So assuming that if you put on solar, you're increasing the value, it's like a pool, right? A lot of times people go, oh, well, if I have a pool, the house is worth more. It depends, right? A pool in Minnesota is not as desirable as a pool in Arizona, right? And even if it's a pool in Arizona, how effective is it? Does it leak? Same things with solar. So just be really mindful of it. Do the math on it. I've done the math on solar probably, oh gosh, guys, 100 times, right? You know, in California, we had a lot of space for solar. It's something we could have done. We never moved forward with it. And the reason we never moved forward was twofold. Number one, the cost versus the expected savings, the amount of time it would take to make up for how much I put in the system didn't pencil out. Number two, I was never gonna do a lease. I wouldn't wanna lease something that's on my property, right? I don't want some corporation having something of theirs on my property that I'm beholden to them to. Didn't love that concept. And number three, concern was aesthetics. Yeah, so that's the thing too. You know, depending on your price point, your neighborhood, some people really hate the look of solar, and it can decrease your property value in certain situations. You know, not all, right? Like, look, it can be very attractive to a certain buyer, but that's the thing. When you're looking at selling a house, you want to consider, do I want the widest market? And let's be honest, the widest market is no solar, because then the people who are buying the house get to make the decision. So I hope this video was helpful. Questions, comments, as always, reach out. Do you have solar? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you want solar when you buy? Have you researched the best companies? What is the best company for solar? Look, I think having multiple energy sources can be a great way to be sustainable in the future, but I'm curious to see what you guys think. Thanks for watching.